Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Cycle 5858. I am Amish Cycle. Foreign news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please let's go to the headlines.
Tonight, the breaking news as we come out, authorities say they have now halted a horrific plot at the busiest airport in the U.S. The images coming in now, the suspect taken down by police in Atlanta. His family making an urgent call to authorities not long before. What the family warned. Surveillance showing him walking through the airport, possibly surveilling the busy TSA lines. Officers moving in. In his truck, they say finding an AR-15 assault-style rifle and 27 rounds of ammunition. We'll go live in the scene. Also developing tonight what caused that massive slowdown today. Popular apps, online shopping, airline ticketing, social media gaming halted or slowed down dramatically. Tonight, the new images coming in of demolition underway at the White House, where groups making room for President Trump's $250 million ballroom. The president has said the ballroom construction would not interfere with the existing White House. And today, the government shutdown, now day 20, Congress still getting paid, with thousands of workers fired, and now 1,400 workers at the National Nuclear Security Agency furloughed tonight. This evening, the brazen heist in broad daylight, dressed as construction workers at the Louvre in Paris. In the gallery for just 3 minutes, 50 seconds, and what they got away with. James Longman goes down the list. He's live in Paris. Tonight, the United Airlines passenger jet and the alarming images from inside the cockpit. The windshield shattering, the pilot cut and bleeding, making an emergency landing. The breaking headline involving former FBI Director James Comey tonight. The Trump vote charged by the Justice Department, and now Comey's new move in court late today. Tonight, a legal victory for President Trump in his move to send the National Guard into Portland. What we've learned. The former NFL star dying in police custody. Police say suffering a medical emergency after being arrested. In New York City, the disturbing discovery, a newborn baby girl found in a set of stairs at Penn Station during rush hour. They saved her, and they're now calling her the miracle on 34th Street. And the woman who used ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, to win the lottery, and how much she won. From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is President Trump offering this response to the No Kings protesters that gathered across our country this weekend. Watch.
I think it's a joke. I looked at the people. They're not representative of this country. And I looked at all the brand new signs paid for, I guess it was paid for by Soros and other radical left lunatics. It looks like it was. We're checking it out. The demonstrations were very small, very ineffective. And the people were whacked out. When you look at those people, those are not representative of the people of our country. I'm not a king. I work my off to make our country great. That's all it is. I'm not a king at all.
Joining me now to react is independent journalist Evita Duffy Alfonso. Evita, did these protests accomplish anything?
Well, I would say no, they did not, and I thought the president's points were spot on. So first of all, he's right. These protests were Soros-funded, Open Society Foundation funded. And the other thing is, if you looked around at these protests, Todd, everyone was old. I have never seen a movement where there's energy and excitement, and everybody's 55 and older. It's just impossible. It reminded me of the Women's March in 2016, or these Doge protests, where just everybody is elderly. There's no youth and energy behind this, which means it's pretty inorganic, which President Trump is right. It was inorganic. And if you think about what they're fighting for, right, anti-ICE protests, right, like they're angry that President Trump is deporting illegals. Who is that good for? Working class Americans. So there's a generational divide here, but then there's also, I think, a class divide in these protests. The people who are here are wildly out of touch with what normal, regular Americans want from this country.
And quite frankly, to your earlier point, a lot of those individuals, we don't have an exact number, but a lot of them were paid to be there. And that is concerning because that's not necessarily the organicness that you want to see in our society when you protest. Meantime, the DOJ DOJ has reportedly found evidence that Democrats are skewing crime information ahead of the midterms. The report from Fox Business senior correspondent Charlie Gasparino reads in part, quote, "The number of felonies in Chicago, not to mention New York, Los Angeles, and Portland, Oregon, is declining only because both prosecutors are knocking down felonies to something less severe for political reasons," DOJ sources say. It looks like the Democrats are trying to get voters to ignore reality, and Evita, it looks like they just got caught.
Yes, and I understand why they would want to, because our cities are dying. They are dying. When I was a student at the University of Chicago, which is the south side of Chicago, classmates of mine were pistol whipped on their way to and from class. Classmates of mine were murdered for using public transit. And things have only gotten worse in Chicago. That was the time of Lori Lightfoot, and now we have Brandon Johnson. And what happened in 2020? We were told that law and order is racist. We were told that we have to empty out our psychiatric institutions and our prisons, and somehow that will make social justice prevail in America. And all that happened was that law-abiding citizens have suffered. We have been destroyed by blue city soft on crime policies. And I'm someone from rural America. I've always been from rural America. And sometimes people
Breaking news tonight, the potential mass shooting averted. A man arrested with an assault-style rifle at Atlanta's airport. Police saying he intended to harm as many people as he could. The surveillance footage of him prowling the airport, an AR-15 in his truck. The moment police take him down, the man's so big, police needed 2 sets of handcuffs. How his family's urgent warning may have saved lives. Also tonight, the major global outage paralyzing parts of the internet. Banks, airlines, even government sites all impacted. What caused the massive outage? Manhunt in Paris. Thieves raiding the Louvre, smashing display cases, stealing necklaces, tiaras, and jewels. The new timeline tonight showing the criminals inside for only 4 minutes. The deadly plane crash, a cargo flight skidding off the runway, killing 2. Plus, this plane's emergency landing after a lithium battery burst into flames on board. Anger at the courthouse, protest at the murder trial of the former deputy accused of fatally shooting Sonia Massey in her home after she called police for help. Plus, 2 Texas parents arrested after allegedly leaving their 6-month-old baby alone at the beach for nearly an hour. Online dangers, why Florida's Attorney General is calling Roblox, the popular kids gaming platform, a breeding ground for predators. One father's warning tonight. This is NBC 19 News with Tom Yalmas. This is DW News, and these are our top stories. U.S. President Donald Trump says the front lines between Ukraine and Russia should be frozen so peace talks can begin. His call comes amid fresh efforts by the Trump administration to end the fighting. Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin are expected to meet in Hungary to discuss a deal. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has been meeting Donald Trump at the White House. They signed a deal on critical minerals and rare earths, a sector that's of particular interest to the U.S. as it seeks to reduce its dependence on China. President Trump also confirmed the AUKUS defense deal with Australia will go ahead. A disruption at Amazon Web Services has crashed some of the world's most popular online services, including Signal, Zoom, Snapchat, and Roblox. Major banks have also been affected. AWS, which is the world's largest cloud computing provider, says it now has fixed the underlying problem and services are recovering. This is DW News from Berlin. You'll find much more news on our website, dw.com. And I'm Jeff Bennett. On the NewsHour tonight, Ukraine turns to European leaders for military support after President Trump urges Kyiv to cede territory to Russia.
President Trump spars with the president of Colombia over U.S. strikes on alleged drug trafficking boats in the Caribbean.
And how Republican efforts to redraw congressional districts and further dismantle the Voting Rights Act may disenfranchise black voters nationwide.
This type of discrimination is sadly still current, still rampant, and still contaminating our democracy and our electoral processes.
Monday night, cloud chaos, the Amazon outage that broke a huge chunk of the internet.
We've just become so interconnected, so interdependent.
What caused it and what the world needs to learn from it. In limbo over a landmark ruling on land titles.
That's a big deal.
Why some British Columbians fear they could lose their homes. An Alberta mother's agony a month after her little boy vanished.
What do you think happened to your son?
Why investigators don't believe he was kidnapped. Plus, Toronto Blue Jays fans anxious for seventh heaven.
It's a huge moment for the country.
Countdown to tonight's winner takes all matchup. Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin with another reminder of the fragility of the global technology which we all depend on. Amazon Web Services, the cloud service provider that supports companies, governments, and websites all over the world, suffered a serious outage today. Thousands of the most popular apps and programs used by millions of people no longer worked. From social media platforms such as Reddit and Snapchat to ride-sharing services like Uber. Even McDonald's and several major video games were caught in the meltdown. Most were up and running again in a few hours, but it reveals the risk of relying on a few major technology providers. Adi Mitrachik has our top story on how it all went wrong.
Snapchat wasn't snapping, Fortnite was frozen, and Amazon's Alexa was of no assistance. Just a few of the online services knocked out temporarily thanks to a problem in the cloud.
AWS has been a massive cloud infrastructure provider basically since day one.
AWS, Amazon Web Services, is a division of the retail and delivery giant Amazon. It's one of several big names other companies pay for access to the processing power and storage space in its massive data centers. In the early morning hours Monday, something went wrong.
Amazon is all news programs.
Ulrich, one of the 200 France 24 correspondents around the world.
Hello and a warm welcome. You're watching Daybreak on France 24. These are the headlines. Hamas releases another body of an Israeli hostage to the Red Cross. Gaza's medical staff meanwhile say the remains of Palestinians being handed back by Israel show signs of torture. The truce deal said to be relatively back on track as Israel allows some aid into the devastated strip. How much getting in still in question. Israeli bombs have killed dozens of people in Gaza since the ceasefire deal was announced. Japan elects its first female prime minister, though she is not expected to push for women's rights. Described as an ultra-conservative, Sane Takaichi will lead a party that's been in power for the best part of the last 17 years, but which currently finds itself on shaky ground. And former French President Nicolas Sarkozy headed to prison, sentenced to 5 years behind bars for criminal conspiracy in a scheme to finance his election using money from Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi. His son has called on supporters together at his house this morning to wave him off as he drives to the Santé prison in central Paris. So to tell you that there's also coming up in the programme, Elitza Gadava will be here with a review of the international newspapers. One story she's booked up on is of a medical breakthrough, a tiny electronic eye implant that is helping blind people see the world again, opening a potential new era in tackling age-related blindness.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
An estimated 7 million people took part in No Kings rallies Saturday to protest President Trump's embrace of authoritarianism. Organizers say protests were held in over 2,600 cities, towns, villages across all 50 states in what was one of the largest days of protests in U.S. history, surpassing the first No Kings Day of action in June. In Chicago, the protest stretched for 2 miles as about 250,000 people took to the streets. Chicago Mayor Brendan Johnson addressed the crowd, calling for a general strike. An estimated 200,000 rallied in Washington, D.C. Senator Bernie Sanders addressed the crowd.
This moment is not just about one man's greed, one man's corruption, or one man's contempt for the Constitution. This is about a handful of the wealthiest people on earth who, in their insatiable greed, have hijacked our economy and our political system in order to enrich themselves at the expense of working families throughout this country.
At a No Kings rally in Atlanta, Georgia, speakers included former gubernatorial candidate, voting rights activist Stacey Abrams.
And yet we are living in a moment where ethno-fascists are in charge of the government. We Christian nationalists are making economic policy. We have a secret police telling us who we are. Their destination is division. Their destination is destruction. And their destination is denied. We will not go back and we will not let the turn around.
President Trump responded to the No Kings protest by posting an AI-generated video that showed
This is Asia Now.
It's 12 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 in New Delhi, and 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Rani Samtani. At this hour, Japan's lower house is set to vote for the country's new premier after an 11th-hour coalition agreement between the ruling LDP and the Japan Innovation Party brings Sane Takaichi back on track to become the country's first female prime minister. U.S. President Donald Trump downplays the risk of a clash over Taiwan and predicts a trade deal during potential talks with Chinese leader Xi Jinping next week. Beijing has yet to confirm a meeting. And countering China's dominance in rare earths remains a top priority for the U.S. It has struck a multi-billion-dollar deal with Australia to ensure a steady supply of critical minerals.
Load the ABC News app or visit the website. Today, shares in rare earth companies surge on the back of a multi-billion-dollar critical minerals deal with the US.
This is big thing for industry, absolutely. And a very big deal for Australia.
Amazon systems back online after a major outage affecting around 1,000 apps and websites. The government demands answers from Beijing after a Chinese jet releases flares very close to an Australian surveillance plane. And parts of the southeast brace for extreme weather, with temperatures set to soar up to 16 degrees above average. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Ross Chops. The Prime Minister has wrapped up.
We did have a tragedy averted today.
Attack averted. Atlanta police arrest a man with an assault rifle after they say he threatened to shoot up the world's busiest airport.
Also tonight, the art of the steal. The search for the brazen thieves who took just 4 minutes to swipe priceless jewels from the Louvre.
A crash in the night, a glitch in Amazon's cloud services knocks out websites and apps around the world.
And the battle to save a fish of distinction from extinction.
You're preserving an American icon. Yes, it's the last species of paddlefish alive.
Africa News.
$21 to strengthen one president. Civil rights abuses perpetrated by the regime of former Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir.
Tension remained in Cameroon's country awaits the official announcement of election results by the Constitutional Council. Mr. Jerome, the candidate of the Cameroon National Salvation Front, has once again addressed his supporters and the national authorities, while also calling the incomparable election fit to the other president. You have led this country for 43 years. History is watching you. Mr. Charles and from special role is silence dictatorship.
Votre silence.
Your voice protects. Rome has also ordered the country to declare elections. You have sworn to protect Constitution and defend the law. Today, you're facing history. Either of the ballot box and give Cameroon the peaceful change it demands, or condone fraud and plunge country into an uncertain future.
Précipiter notre pays vers de lendemain incertain.
The Constitutional Council has now shelved 30th October 20.
Hello there and good morning. It is at 7 a.m. on today's Breakfast Show. The grassroots campaign to prevent suicide by those facing domestic abuse gets its moment in Westminster.
We'll be joined by the acting head of the US aid agency in Gaza.
Plus, we're looking at prisoner early releases as MPs debate the sentencing today.
It is Tuesday, 31st of October. We're going to hear from a mother whose daughter took her own life as a result of domestic abuse. As campaigners meet the safeguarding minister later. As the memoir of Virginia Giuffre is published, the SNP joined other MPs in calling for Prince Andrew to be stripped of
Thank you for watching Amish Shakil 5858. I am Amish Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.